Hello and welcome everyone to a plugin test. This time I'm testing Fuzzploid by Shameless Plugs, and I already tested another plugin from Shameless Plugs before, which was called the DOM, a cool distortion tool in which when I tested it I asked myself, if there is the DOM, can there also be the sub? But anyway, I talked to the developer about it then and found out that it's actually a reference to one of the developer teammates' names, because his name is like, I don't know, Dominic or something. Is your name Dominic? Please tell me. I just know that it's kind of something with Dom. But what other names are there even with Dom? Dominic? No. Okay, anyway, the DOM is a cool plugin and you should check it out. Now we will find out how much Fuzzploid is a cool plugin. And the problem is I'm not much of a guitar person and the developers are total guitar fans. So they make all these plugins with guitars in mind. But I'm more, I don't know, a little bit electronic. So it might be that I don't have the right sounds for this demonstration. And that's why I would consider this more of a test than a review, to be honest. But you can just stick around if you enjoy the experience, I don't know. Now I have a little drum break here that I just wanted to process, and I'm not sure in which direction I want to process it. I just want to process it somehow and see what happens. Because it is in the context of this beat. And yeah, it sounds very techy up here, and the drum break is just a raw drum break. But it was meant as something to add after already one bar of only this stuff, that some other rhythmical element comes in and sort of helps out adding a new element. But of course the drum break needs to sound wildly different. So my hope is that some magical distortion tools will help guiding me the way. So now I enabled the plugin. I really like what it does to the snare. I'm not so much of a fan of what it does to the kick. So let's just try to split the spectrum a little bit. And only start with the mid-range. Now let's also check out if we can do something interesting with the high end. Whoa. That's something that I always really like about Shameless Plugs, that you can just slap them on stuff and they will do something unexpected. Like when you turn up this plug-in on only the high end of such a track, then suddenly it will have a very soothing effect, even though it's distortion and not soothe. Like very interesting. Now let's try it on the low end. I like it. It sounds very breakcore-ish in my opinion. Now let's actually try to tweak this a little bit, because we could try to make it a little bit more transient-ish. Yeah, that's nice. Nice. I have a little idea. I will put all of this into a chain so that I can use a huge macro on everything. And this macro is going to be called insane. Because what it does is it adds insanity to the sound. For example, by doing this. Let's test if this is the right thing. Yep, this is the right thing. Great. So let's make now a second patch that's all about being way too hard. Okay, let me just quickly draw like an automation curve or something and say something about what I just did. I really like how this effect sounds in multiband, that you can get so many different flavors from it just by attaching a little bit of expansion to the whole thing. And yeah, now I can make cool stuff. just a little sidechain compressor so that it still blends with the rest of the style, which is very dominated by the kick punching away everything. Okay, so this is pretty cool because at the beginning you can a little bit hear that it's drum break, boom, taka taka doom, and then it like gets to a whole different level of noise, and suddenly it sounds like which is a very cool effect. So yeah, that's cool. Break with his. Now let's try something else with it. But I'm not sure yet what I should do. Let me quickly pause this video because I don't want to just try one thing and then call that a test. So let me quickly pause this video. Alright, I'm back, and for you it was probably like no time difference at all because I paused the video. And I made this asset patch. As you can see, a bunch of parameters are modulated by a randomizer, or more like the randomizer modulates the macro that modulates the parameters, and that creates the acid sound. And now I want to apply Fuzzploid. Nice, it immediately sounds like an atomic wasteland. I want to test how it sounds on different bands again, because that turned out as a cool thing the last time. Okay, I liked some of the individual sounds, but the sound that it made together was not exactly what I liked. But that gave me a new idea, which was actually using this first. Yeah, so because I have this randomizer here, I can also just attach it to this kind of. Maybe the other way around. You might ask yourself why I want to have such a resonant sound. And the reason for that is because I want the distortion to just hit on these resonances and not be influenced by the whole sound so much. Or more like creating a distorting dynamic that is a little bit more interesting. yeah, that was pretty sick. Now, the whole track in general will probably not sound very consistent, no, not gonna lie, but that's often the case when you are very surgical about every element, that you have to rearrange them and try to tweak them like for weeks. But let's still just listen to what it sounds like at the moment. Whoa, it's better than I thought, actually. This one should not be there, it's like clashing with the other sound. Nice one. Maybe I find another example that I can throw with this plugin. I see I'm already at like half an hour. But yeah, let's just try it. Okay, I got a fully different part here that I wanna attach to this beat at some point. At the moment it sounds very different. And the drums could definitely have some more elements at least, but let's just focus on the lead sound. It has all these little sweepy tones in it, so it's very likely to sound nice with some fuzz, in my opinion. Nice. Now let's try to mix it with the dry signal. A dry wet knob that's missing from these plugins sometimes. This sound doesn't make a lot of sense anyway. Alright, so these were different examples of where I used Fuzzploid, and again, it's a very creative distortion tool. It always produces a little bit different results than you would think first, in my opinion at least, because, you know, sometimes turning up the fuzz really adds some sizzling, crizzling, or that's how I would call it, from how I feel the sound feels like. But other times it adds some serious soothing for some reason. The input gain, it adds a lot of drive, just like it's also called apparently. And it's really not to be confused with the fuzz knob. It's very important to drive the input hard sometimes. And that can be a little bit off-putting first because there is no gain compensation and you have to turn down the output yourself then. But on the other hand, this is a very easy to use plugin with only 4 knobs, so it's not a big deal. And once you've reached a certain point with the input gain, it doesn't really change the volume anymore at that point, but just the drive of the signal because everything is already so squashed. And that's why there is probably no gain compensation, because at that point it would really just make no difference anymore. And only at the beginning you have to tweak it a little bit to get it to run warm. The tone knob, very useful, just general tone shaping with a low pass filter or something like that. And output gain, you know, for tweaking the volume. Now what we can learn from this is especially that I often use the plugin in conjunction with the Bitwig modules like the chain, where you can dial in the mix knob, as that's very useful to get some layering with the dry signal. And this plugin can be layered very well with the dry signal. There are no phase issues or something like that, which is pretty cool. I didn't expect that because most plugins do. Also, distortion plugins do have some phase issues because they might use convolution for some stuff also. This one probably not, at least doesn't sound so. And yeah, of course, modulation is something that is always very cool with plugins. And yeah, Bitwig can modulate stuff, but other DAWs cannot. So maybe the developer wants to add some own modulation capabilities for the other people. I don't know. I don't I personally don't care so much anymore since I have Bitwig, since this is definitely what the future looks like. And yeah, multiband, of course, splitting something into different bands can be very useful. Even with the tone knob, it just creates a whole different sound when the input's already different, when the input's already having a pre-EQ or pre-splitting of the signal. And that was very prominent effect on this break, where every band had the Fuzzploid acting wildly differently. Like this low end, it sounded very burp-ish, and the mid range, it was totally smashing, dish, dish, dish. And the high end had all these little in it that were not really part of the high end anymore after they ran through Fuzzploid. Actually, all of these three bands ended up having low, mid, and high in them, which is quite funny. So Fuzzploid really gets out the stuff that was actually filtered out before, but adding it in back in a new way, which is cool. And yeah. So I don't know if I would suggest that this plugin needs a modulation system or multiband, even though I used it like that. I think people will definitely get creative with it and use it for all kinds of different ways, and in some DAWs it might be a little bit harder to use it in the ways that I used it in, but it's still not impossible, so they will just do that. And the big strength of little plugins like this is definitely that they are not intimidating. You can always download a free plugin with just 4 knobs and learn it in some minutes, and then have fun with it, and it will not feel scary at any point. So that's what's always a big argument against huge modulation systems and multiband and stuff like that. This just gives me the feeling that I'm adding a little bit of spice to stuff. And this little bit of spice is actually a huge spice that totally crushes everything to death in a fuzzy way, which is cool. I wish I could have compared this plugin to other fuzz plugins in this video. I do have one. It's called QuadraFuzz V1. It's from an older version of Cubase. But the problem is that QuadraFuzz, they did not add it to the more recent versions of Cubase. So I asked the support if I'm allowed to crack the old version, and they said yes. But the old version, even with the crack, only works in Cubase. So I cannot demonstrate that now in this project. And I will not actually make a Cubase project just to show that. But yeah. I don't have any other fuzz distortion plugins yet, I think. So I cannot compare it. But if you have some, then you can just compare it from having watched this video, I guess. See ya.